The wind carried the smell of burning soil as the sky cracked with thunder above the battlefield. Ash rained from the heavens like a curse spoken by forgotten gods. The planet Virex had known peace for centuries, but now its surface was scarred by fire and fear. The stars that once shone with beauty now blinked coldly above the chaos below. No one knew who fired first, but it was clear who brought the war. The Zellari Dominion, an empire of shadow-blooded warlords, descended from the void with dark ships and silent fleets. Their weapons carved mountains into graves. Their war beasts turned forests into dust. Virex's defenders, proud and ancient, fell faster than they could understand the enemy's cruelty. Among the chaos, one world forgot to scream earth. Far from Virex, it remained silent, unaware of the old prophecy that linked its people to a blade that could never be lifted. A blade cursed to sleep until the one with a soul unlike any other touched it. A blade that pulsed beneath Virex's crust, dreaming of fire and truth. A small unit of humans had been sent to observe, not to fight. They were peace envoys, part of an interspecies alliance council, never meant for war. Among them was Captain Marcus Wren, a man more known for stubbornness than strategy. His orders were simple: observe, report, and survive. But survival had become a foolish dream. The Zellari didn't spare envoys. They crushed everything that stood before them. Marcus and his team had crashed deep in the Virexian jungle, running from scanners, hiding from monsters that never slept, and dodging enemy drones that whispered death in every corner of the forest. By the third day, food was gone. By the fifth, 2 members of his squad were gone too. One taken by a Zellari spider mech, the other by something even worse, something with more eyes than form. Marcus knew they wouldn't last much longer. And still he kept walking, deeper into terrain that twisted reality and made compasses useless. It was during a violet dusk, beneath the floating stones of Virex's haunted ridge, that Marcus stumbled upon her. She stood like a ghost carved from starlight, her skin glowing blue beneath armor etched in gold and sorrow. Her horns curled like a crown, and her eyes shimmered like storm clouds. She didn't raise a weapon when she saw him. Instead, she whispered, "You shouldn't be here, human. The blade watches this place." Her voice echoed in the air like it didn't belong to her body. She wasn't Zellari. She was something else, older, wounded, and strangely familiar. Marcus raised his hands in peace, but his boots slid across moss that pulsed faintly underfoot. He looked past her shoulder and saw it half buried in stone, wrapped in green fire that did not burn. It was a sword, ancient, massive, alive, and no one else could see it shimmer the way he did. The alien girl turned, followed his gaze, and her face changed. Her mouth dropped open. Her eyes widened like moons. She stepped back and shook her head. "You see it," she gasped. "You can actually see it." Marcus nodded, unsure if he was dreaming. He stepped forward, drawn by something older than fear, deeper than logic. The blade pulsed. A heartbeat. A call. A warning. The alien girl shouted at him to stop. "Don't touch it, it's cursed." It burned the last 9 who tried. Not even the Virexian High Guard could lift it. It doesn't belong to one, but Marcus wasn't listening. The ground vibrated beneath his boots as he stepped closer. The vines coiled around the blade recoiled. The fire didn't harm him. His hand reached out. The blade sang, and in that moment, it rose. The stone shattered. The vines turned to ash. The fire wrapped around his arm like a welcome. Marcus stood with the blade in his hand, and not a single burn on his body. The alien girl dropped to her knees, whispering words in a language no translator could capture. For the first time in 1,000 years, the cursed blade had chosen someone, and that someone was human. Asterisk, the blade in Marcus's hand pulsed like it had a soul. Bright green energy swirled around his fingers, not burning, but bonding. The air smelled like metal and ozone. The moment he lifted it, the jungle around him stilled. No birds, no wind. Not even the buzz of Zalari drones. Everything held its breath. The alien girl didn't move for a moment. Then she stood up slowly, like the weight of what she had just witnessed pressed against her chest. Her voice was quieter now, full of awe and warning. You should not have been able to do that. The blade is cursed. It rejects all who are not chosen by the ancients. Marcus didn't feel cursed. In fact, he felt stronger, clearer. The exhaustion from days of running was gone. His wounds from the crash were closed. But deep inside his bones, something was changing. He could feel it, a slow, cold heat spreading from the blade into his veins. What are you? The alien girl whispered. I'm just a soldier, Marcus said, tightening his grip on the weapon. No, you're not. Not anymore. She stepped closer, inspecting the sword, her eyes scanning its runes like they held stories only her kind could read. Then, she looked up and said something that made his heart skip. The sword is alive. And now it is linked to you. Marcus asked what that meant. She didn't answer at first. Instead, she gestured for him to follow. They walked through the jungle, quiet and tense, moving through shadows and mist. Finally she spoke. My name is Zirella. I was one of the keepers. Our task was to guard the blade, to make sure no one touched it. It was said that only one being in the universe would ever be able to lift it. A being not born of this world, with a soul that burned both. Bright and kind. Marcus laughed under his breath, but she didn't smile. She stopped near a rock formation that hummed softly. Hidden beneath, it was a chamber carved with ancient symbols. Vines pulled back as they approached, revealing a staircase lit by glowing stones. Where are we going? He asked. To the tomb of the first flame, she said. It's the only place that can explain what you are becoming. As they entered, Marcus felt the blade in his hand vibrate. The walls inside the tomb were lined with carvings, alien battles, strange creatures, and a single repeated symbol. A star-bound figure holding the glowing blade high, his image, his weapon. Thousands of years before he was born, Zirella paused. Before a pedestal at the center. Floating above it was a small orb, spinning slowly, its surface etched with the same runes on the blade. She placed her hand on the orb. The runes lit up, and the chamber responded with a low hum. A voice echoed around them, not in words, but in feeling. It told Marcus a story, a war from before memory. A blade forged not to kill but to choose. To find a defender not corrupted by power, someone forgotten by fate but worthy of legend. The blade had waited, alone, through centuries of silence. Now it had found its match. But there was a warning too. The blade's gift came with a cost. If the wielder lost balance, if hate grew stronger than purpose, the blade would consume him from the inside. The last to wield it had tried. He failed. And the blade turned him to dust. Marcus turned to Zirella. Why me? Because you didn't want it, she said. And that is exactly why it chose you. Suddenly, a blast shook the earth above. Dust rained from the tomb ceiling. Zirella grabbed her spear and pulled Marcus back. Through a small crystal screen, they saw shadows moving outside Zalari hunters. Tall, armored, merciless. They found U.S., she whispered. Marcus looked down at the blade in his hand. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat preparing for battle. He tightened his grip and nodded to Zirella. Then let's see what this thing can do. The cursed blade hummed in agreement, and the tomb doors began to open. The tomb doors groaned open, revealing a wall of smoke and moving shadows. The jungle outside was burning. The sky had turned blood red from the blaze, and the leaves fell like glowing embers. From the thick smoke, the Zalari stepped forward tall. Armored in black crystal, their eyes glowing with cold light, there were 6 of them. All carried blades made of fused bone and plasma. They spoke no words. The Zalari believed silence was the truest form of cruelty. Their leader, twice the size of the others, raised his hand and pointed at Marcus. "Return the blade," Zarella whispered. "They will never allow a human to hold it." Marcus didn't move. The cursed sword felt weightless in his grip. It pulsed with warmth, as if aware of what stood before it. The Zalari charged forward. Their footsteps cracked the ground, but Marcus didn't run. He stepped ahead of Zarella and raised the blade. The first Zalari leaped through the air. In one clean motion, Marcus slashed. The cursed blade didn't slice flesh, it shattered armor and sent a wave of green fire through the air. The warrior fell, his weapon turned to ash. The others hesitated, now unsure. Marcus moved like he had trained with the sword all his life. But he hadn't. The blade was guiding him, moving with him, reading his thoughts. Every motion was a dance. Every swing hummed with power that bent the air. By the time the smoke cleared, only their leader remained. He was not afraid. He stepped forward and removed his helmet, revealing a face twisted by war and scars. One eye was mechanical, the other held a dark glow. He looked at Marcus, not as an enemy but as a rival. "I know that blade," the Zalari growled. "It belonged to the Fireborn King. I watched him fall when it consumed him. I will watch you fall too," he charged. This time, Marcus felt it. The blade grew cold. It began to hum louder, not in warning, but in hunger. It wanted to fight. It remembered the war. It remembered the king who failed. And now, it wanted revenge. The battle was short. Marcus moved with speed that wasn't his. He ducked, struck, spun, and blocked. Sparks flew. Rocks shattered. And with a final strike, he brought the blade down. The green energy exploded, throwing both of them back. Marcus hit the ground hard. His ears rang. The sword was no longer in his hand. He reached for it, but the Zalari was faster. He grabbed the blade, screaming as his skin burned on contact. The sword glowed, then screamed with him. Flames erupted. His armor cracked, and then silence. The Zalari leader was gone. Only dust remained where he had stood. Zarella ran to Marcus, kneeling beside him. His arm was bleeding, but his grip was still strong. The blade floated back into his hand, its fire calm once more. She looked at him like he was something new. Something terrifying and sacred. "You didn't just survive," she said. "The sword protected you. It punished him." Marcus wiped blood from his cheek and stood. He looked out across the jungle. Fires still burned in the distance, but none dared come closer. The forest itself seemed to retreat, afraid of the man and the weapon he carried. "What now?" he asked. "There will be more," Zarella said. "Once the other Zalari leaders learn what happened, they'll come. They'll come in fleets. The blade has awakened, and now the stars will burn for it." Marcus looked down at the weapon, its runes glowing faintly in the fading light. He hadn't asked for this. He didn't want war. But now it was coming, and he was at the center of it. The cursed blade had chosen him, and it would not let him go. Asterisk. The Koe, the cursed blade. Night after the battle was silent. Not a single animal cried. Not a single breeze moved the trees. Marcus sat by a small fire, staring at the cursed blade resting beside him. Its glow had faded, but it still pulsed gently, like it was breathing. In the dark, Zarella sat across from him, her eyes reflecting the firelight. She had not spoken much since the fight. Her armor was scratched, and a long cut ran down her left arm. Still, she kept her spear close, always ready. She studied Marcus the way one would study a storm that had not yet passed. "You fought like someone born with the blade," she said at last. "But you weren't. That means it is changing you." Marcus nodded. He could feel it. His thoughts were sharper. His body no longer ached. His senses reached farther than they should. But something else bothered him. A presence in the back of his mind. Not evil. Not kind. Just asterisk watching. "It's like it's awake," he said. Like it knows more than I do. Zarella nodded slowly. It does. The sword was forged during the first convergence, by the last of the flame singers. It contains a sliver of an ancient mind. It remembers every battle, every death. And now it remembers you. Marcus looked up, confused. You said I was changing into what? Zarella hesitated before she spoke again. The last wielder of the blade became more than a warrior. He became a beacon. His presence alone turned armies away. But in the end, the blade demanded too much. It needed balance. When he failed, it burned him from within. Marcus clenched his jaw. He didn't want power. He wanted survival. But fate had a cruel sense of humor. Before he could speak, the forest around them shifted. The fire snapped, the ground trembled, and above them, a streak of silver light tore across the sky. A ship. Not Zalari, not Phyrexian, human. Marcus stood fast. It was old, Alliance design, the kind of craft used for quick extraction. It landed hard, not far from where they camped. Trees snapped. Smoke rose. He didn't wait. He ran toward it, the blade in his hand once more. The ship's hatch opened, and two figures stumbled out. One wore the badge of Earth's Peace Corps. The other was in civilian gear. Both looked half-starved, eyes wide at the sight of Marcus running toward them with a glowing weapon. It's me, he called. Captain Marcus Wren, you're safe. They recognized his voice. Relief flooded their faces. The soldier saluted. The other dropped to the ground, crying. Marcus helped them up. The ship's systems were damaged. Navigation offline. No long-range comms. They were stranded. Zarella arrived moments later. She kept her distance. The new humans looked at her with unease. Marcus stood between them. She's not the enemy, he said. She saved my life. But the soldier didn't relax. His hand hovered near his holster. Marcus stepped closer and lowered it gently. We can't afford enemies right now. Only allies. The soldier nodded slowly, understanding. But the civilian pointed at the blade. That thing. You're the one who touched it? Marcus nodded. Then they're coming for you, the civilian said. The entire Zalari fleet. We intercepted a message before we crashed. They declared you an abomination, a threat to their entire command. Marcus felt the blade tighten in his grip. Let them come. Zarella stepped beside him, spear in hand. For the first time, she looked at him not with fear, but with trust. The blade chose you for a reason, she said. Now we have to find out what that reason is. Marcus looked toward the sky. More fire would fall. More blood would be spilled. But he was no longer running. He was no longer hiding. The cursed blade had awakened its champion, and the war for the stars had begun. The next morning came with ash in the sky. The air was thick with smoke, and the light from the rising sun barely touched the ground. Birds had vanished. Trees stood still like statues. Marcus stood near the damaged ship, sharpening his focus while Zarella and the two survivors gathered what little supplies remained. No message could be sent. The ship's transmitter had melted during the crash. The survivors had little hope left. Until Marcus told them what the blade had shown him the night before. Dreams filled with stars, burning gates, and a location deep in Virex's north. A ruin lost to time. A place the blade remembered clearly. Zarella listened carefully. Her face darkened when Marcus described the symbols and shapes from his vision. That's the Vault of Suns, she said. It was sealed by the Flame Singers when the wars began. No one has stepped inside for over 1,000 years. Marcus looked down at the cursed blade. Its runes flickered softly. It wants me to go there. It showed me things. A map burned into my mind. Zarella crossed her arms. Then we follow it. But be warned, no one ever returns from the vault. They packed quickly. The human soldier, Private Ellis, insisted on coming. The civilian, Dr. Heron, remained with the ship, too weak to walk far. They left him with food and a small power cell, promising to return in 3 days. The journey to the vault was long. They crossed rivers that glowed under moonlight and hills where nothing grew. The deeper they went, the more the world changed. Rocks floated above the ground. Voices whispered from empty air. Time seemed to move differently. On the 3rd night, they reached the entrance. A stone gate shaped like a sun, half buried in the mountain wall. Symbols spiraled around it, glowing faintly in the dark. Marcus stepped forward. The blade in his hand lit up in response. He pressed it against the stone. The gate opened with a sound like thunder being drawn in reverse. A rush of cold air hit them, carrying scents of dust, fire, and memory. Inside, stairs led downward, carved from black stone and lined with golden veins that pulsed like veins under skin. The vault was not empty. Lights flickered along the walls. Holograms of long-dead warriors stood in silence, ghosts of those who once held the flame. They watched as Marcus walked past them, their faces sad but calm. At the end of the path stood a pedestal. Upon it, a second weapon. Not a blade, but a shield. Round, smooth, glowing with symbols that matched Marcus's sword. He reached out. The shield hovered, then snapped into place on his left arm. A sudden flash of energy passed through him. Visions flooded his mind. Planets burning. Armies kneeling. The blade and shield used together not to conquer, but to protect. They were never meant to be weapons of destruction. They were tools of balance. Guardians of the line between order and chaos. Zarella placed a hand on his shoulder. You are becoming something else. He looked at her with steady eyes. I don't know if that's good or bad. Before she could answer, alarms sounded through the vault. Red lights flashed, walls shook. Above them, the sky split with fire. The Zalari had found them. And they were not alone. Dozens of ships blotted the sky. Troops descended like falling stars. This was no search party. This was an extermination force. Zarella readied her spear. Private Ellis checked his rifle. Marcus stepped into the open, the blade burning brighter than ever. Behind him, the shield locked into place with a flash of green light. The vault doors closed behind them, and the final battle for Virex had begun. The sky burned as the Zalari descended. Their drop pods hit the ground like thunderbolts, splitting rock and sending shockwaves through the earth. The jungle near the Vault of Suns burst into flames. From the smoke, hundreds of black-armored soldiers marched forward without fear. Marcus stood at the front of the ruined pathway. His cursed blade burned in his right hand. The shield hummed on his left arm. Zarella and Private Ellis flanked him, both ready for death. There would be no retreat. Only resistance. They want the blade, Zarella said. They fear what it will become in your hands, Marcus nodded. His eyes stayed locked on the advancing force. The blade felt alive, angry. Ready, it whispered not words but instincts, where to move, when to strike, how to protect. He didn't resist. He surrendered to its guidance. Private Ellis took a firing stance behind a broken pillar. If we're going out, let's make it count. The Zalari commander stepped forward from the enemy line. His armor was gold and black. Taller than the rest, he carried a twin-bladed staff that radiated violet energy. His voice cut through the air like a spear. Human, that weapon does not belong to you. Give it up, and we will make your end painless. Marcus stepped forward. Come take it. The Zalari roared. They charged in waves. Energy bolts screamed through the air. Explosions tore into the rocks. Marcus moved like water through fire. The blade danced in his hand, deflecting blasts, slicing through armor, lighting the battlefield with green flame. Zarella fought like a storm. Her spear struck with speed and precision. Every movement was a warning to the enemy. This world would not fall quietly. Private Ellis, despite being outnumbered, held the rear line with perfect aim. His rifle sang with each burst. But there were too many. For every Zalari that fell, 2 more took its place. They pushed forward, they surrounded the trio. The cursed blade flared, but Marcus's breaths grew heavy. Blood dripped from a cut on his cheek. His shield cracked under repeated blows. Then the ground beneath them rumbled. From within the vault of suns, golden light erupted. The ruins shook. Ancient machinery awakened. Pillars of energy shot skyward. The blade in Marcus's hand screamed. With power, he dropped to one knee as visions surged through his mind. Stars being born, civilizations rising and falling. The voice of the blade spoke clearly now, old and deep. You are the last flame-bearer. You must not fall here. Marcus stood. The blade reshaped itself, extending along his arm. The shield grew larger, wrapping around his shoulder. He stepped forward, glowing like a star, and the enemy halted. Even the Zalari commander took a step back. Then Marcus charged. He became a force of light and fury. The cursed blade was no longer cursed. It was reborn. Every strike shattered weapons. Every block sent shockwaves. He carved through the Zalari. Like lightning tearing through storm clouds. Behind him, Zarella and Ellis pushed forward. The tide turned. The enemy broke ranks. Panic rippled through their command. The commander roared and leapt at Marcus, blades spinning with violet fire. They clashed in midair. Sparks burst in every direction. The shield met the twin blades. The cursed weapon screamed. Time slowed. Marcus locked eyes with the commander. No fear, no words. Just truth. He drove the blade forward. Straight through the commander's chest. The energy exploded. When the smoke cleared, only Marcus stood. The rest of the Zalari fled. Their fear was stronger than their orders. They had seen something no soldier expected, a human becoming legend. Marcus fell to one knee. Zarella caught him. Ellis dropped beside them, breathless but alive. The jungle was silent once more. The fires were dying, and the cursed blade pulsed calmly in his hand. The battlefield was quiet. Smoke curled above the broken stones like fading memories. Marcus knelt in the center of the scorched field, the blade resting against the ground, its glow dim but steady. Zarella stood beside him, watching the skies. No more enemy ships fell. The Zalari had retreated. Private Ellis crouched nearby, guarding the edge of the ruined path. His uniform was torn, face bruised, but his hands were steady. They had survived. The impossible had happened. The cursed blade had not taken Marcus's soul. Instead, it had revealed something greater. The light from the vault of suns faded slowly, drawing its energy back into the earth. The ancient structure sealed behind them with a soft hum. Whatever knowledge lived inside had passed into Marcus now. He was no longer just a man. He was the last of something long forgotten. We should move, Ellis said. We don't know if they'll return. Zarella nodded, but Marcus didn't stand. He stared at the sword, then at his reflection in the broken shield. He saw a different man now. Not the one who crashed on this planet. Not the one who once feared a fight. His voice was calm when he finally spoke. It's not over. Zarella turned toward him. What do you mean? Marcus looked to the horizon. In the distance, the stars shimmered unnaturally. A ripple in space. A tremor in the void. The blade pulsed again, this time with urgency. It showed me what's coming, he said. The Zalari were only the first wave. Something darker follows them, something older than war. Ellis stood up straight. Then we warn Earth, we prepare. Marcus rose slowly. He placed the shield on his back. The blade stayed in his hand, lighter than ever before. Its glow was no longer violent. It was steady like a promise kept. He looked at his allies, one alien, one soldier, and felt the weight of his choice. We don't warn Earth, Marcus said. We lead it. Zarella stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "Then you must embrace what you are." He met her eyes. "I'm still human, but now I'm more." They began the walk back to the crash site. The jungle opened for them as if it remembered who now walked among its roots. Trees bent gently, the wind whispered softly, and the blade sang a quiet song in Marcus's hand. At the wreck, Dr. Huron stumbled out, shocked to see them alive. When he saw the sword, he froze. Marcus helped him to his feet, and for the first time, he smiled. "You're going to want to see this," Marcus said. The remaining systems of the crashed ship flickered to life. The COM unit pulsed. A signal had gotten through. Earth was listening. A voice crackled over the speaker, asking for identity and status. Marcus lifted the mic and gave them his name. Then he gave them their new reality. "The cursed blade has awakened. I'm coming home, but I'm not alone. And the war is bigger than we thought." On the other end, there was silence. Then a quiet reply, "Understood, Captain, sending help." The stars were no longer silent. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, something else stirred. But this time, humanity would not be caught unprepared. The cursed blade had chosen its champion, and the galaxy would remember his name.